Hello, hello. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming along to this, our first fans forum of the 2024-25 season. Give me a couple of weeks and I'll be fine with that one. Now, it's quite a bit different weather conditions, isn't it, from the last time we had one of these? I think it was late November, early December. Absolutely freezing cold. I think it put off quite a few people to come out today. But the sun is out. It's been magnificent. And that normally means one thing, and that's pre-season, doesn't it? The players have to run in the heat. The other thing, if you are struggling with heat, I suppose the best thing to wear is a cap or a hat, and we have some rather nice hats in our superstore which you can go and get. Wide range are available. Had to get it in. Anyway, for those not in attendance here with us at Home Park, this is being streamed on our YouTube page and on Argyle TV. Thanks a lot for tuning in. There's been so many great questions that have been sent in. Lots of topics to be discussed over the next hour or so. Just a little kind of run through of what will happen before we get the panel out. The questions that have been submitted from all of you, we'll be going through all of them. They are tailored to each different person. So we'll be going through all of those, and then if we've got time at the end, we'll open it up to you guys to ask some questions as well. Also, for people watching at home, if you've got a burning question, you can email it into media@pafc.co.uk, and we will try to get that to the panel as well. I'm making no promises for that, but if we've got time, we'll go through you guys here, and then we'll try and get to the questions at home as well. So get your thinking caps on. A reminder of who we've got up here. We've got our chief executive, our chairman, and our head coach. So try and tailor your questions towards what they will be able to answer. And also, if you've got any kind of specific questions, individual kind of queries, they will be difficult to answer for the panel up here. You can get in touch with us later on via email for specific individual queries. So try and make it a little bit wide-ranging if you can. Just before we get started as well, there will be an area at the end where Wayne Rooney, our head coach, has given up a little bit of time for photos and autographs as well. That'll take place just to my right, your left, and he'll be there for half an hour afterwards. So, enough of me. Let's get the main events out onto the stage. Let's get our panel out. First off, our chairman, Simon Hallett. Somewhere. Here he is. Yeah, we tried to get some fireworks and stuff for you, but not inside, Simon. Our chief executive, Andrew Parkinson. And our head coach, Wayne Rooney. Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Wayne, this is your first experience of a fans forum for us as well. So you ready?
Yeah, excited to speak to everyone.
Let's get it going. We'll get straight into it. And as I mentioned, the first part of this will be questions from you guys that you've sent in. So yeah, let's get straight to it, shall we? They are tailored to specific people. So Simon, this one's for you to kick us off. So the board has opted... the board has been open, about the search for investment, something you've spoken about quite a lot. It's a good one to start with this. Is there an update on where these discussions have got to?
Sure. The update is that we've been looking for nearly a year for suitable investors. We are in talks at the moment with a couple of groups, one of which is quite well advanced. They are very slow. We are clearly looking for somebody who can buy into the values of the club, buy into our overall strategy, and particularly our investment strategy. But it's taking time. We will, of course, let you know as soon as we can exactly what's happening. But we are bound by confidentiality rules, by confidentiality with the prospective purchasers of new shares, and confidentiality with regard to the EFL that will, of course, require quite a lot of time to have any new investor go through the much more stringent owners and directors test. But we'll let you know as soon as we can.
So the fans will be first to know, basically, hopefully.
After me, I hope.
After you, yeah. Let's stick with the kind of investment theme. So on our head coach, was the promise of investment integral into appointing Wayne at all? We'll let Simon answer this one first.
No. I think we've been pretty clear. We hired Wayne because we want to win more football matches. And that was the entire part of the consideration. We think that Wayne is a person who's bought into our values, he's bought into our playing philosophy, and he's bought into our overall club philosophy. So I think already he's made himself known to everybody at the club. We're firm believers that the club that surrounds a football squad, a club that surrounds the head coach, is a critical part of success. And I think Wayne, it's fair to say Wayne buys into that. But I'm sure he'll talk about that himself. He can speak for himself better than I can. On that then, Wayne, on Argyle, why was, and you've answered this a few times, but for everybody here, why was this the club for you?
Yeah, well, I come here, I think it was in December with Birmingham, and it's the first time I've been to Home Park, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed walking into the stadium. I got lost actually in the car park. So I had my car here and one of the staff parked there, and I was in the main car park outside and got lost for about 30 minutes. But yeah, and then when I spoke to Simon and Andrew, the first time I spoke to them, I was really excited with what I heard from them, and obviously know the playing squad have played against Argyle last season, and I felt it was a good challenge for me, and ultimately working with good people. I think that was really important to me after my time at Birmingham. Coming into a good environment with good people was important, and my ambitions matched the club's ambitions. So I think it was a great match.
Andrew, first one for you this evening, and it's also on the appointment, and this was something that was raised when the appointment was made, and as Simon has said and as Wayne has said this evening, it isn't the case, I'd imagine, but anything close to a PR appointment at all?
Well, we've never had a fans forum sold out before, but no.
I know I've come dressed as a model tonight, but
very sharp as well, yeah. Making me look bad.
Joking aside, absolutely not. As Simon said, it was about winning football matches. Obviously, we wanted the person, and we've got the person, to be the right person for the club and go on the journey with us that we started and we want to go to next. And that was the overriding credential for appointing Wayne. I would add as well, I think his passion comes across very strongly. Like us, we're ambitious as well, so it just felt absolutely the right thing.
And Wayne, you know, you've had incredible success throughout your career, you know, as a player and going through at every stage. So what does success look like to you now as a head coach here at Plymouth Argyle too?
It's winning. I think as a player, obviously, as you mentioned, I've won many titles in my career, but as a coach, I haven't, and I'm very ambitious. I'm very confident in my own ability, and I believe in how I work, how the environment I create at a football club as well. And everyone comes to training, it comes into work and enjoys it, and I think that's important as well. But I think having that mentality of winning football matches and obviously trying to win trophies is important as well. But it's a mindset. Hard work is such a huge talent, which completely outweighs, you know, individual skill. Coming in and working hard every day is really important, and that's something which I really try and instill into the players.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, let's move away from the appointment of our head coach and into some more general topics. And it wouldn't be a fans forum without this question. Does anyone want to guess what it might be? Corners, Andrew.
Stop the clock.
14 minutes in.
Right. I used to be able to answer this really easily because I think 4 or 5 years ago when I was asked this question, we were getting 7,000 people coming in. So I used to say, well, hang on, we're not filling the stadium. And of course we are now. So, you know, it is something that absolutely we need to consider. We know that we're selling out 17,000 people every week. But it needs a proper business case for it as well. These things don't come cheap. And we need to, alongside the investors that Simon has talked about, we need to make sure that we get the right return for that. And then that return is then be able to invest in the football squad ultimately and the first team and all the facilities as well. So we have to go through that process. And I'll just add to that that it's important to recognise that we've actually acquired a number of parcels of land as well over the last 2 or 3 years. So we need to consider everything in its kind of totality, really.
Just to follow it up, and there are a couple of questions around this as well. So last season, a report was being prepared about the options for expanding the capacity, including the corners. But what were the options identified, and what were the kind of approximate costs for those options too?
We've started that process. A report coming out, I think probably be a bit stronger word in terms of having that. But what we did do is start the process of what was called a development framework. And that is to look at what the potential would be for all the different land that we do have for the capacity of the stadium. But also you need to consider things like increasing the capacity also means you've got to think about transport, car parking, the environment, the adjacencies, etc. So as we know on a match day, for example, it's quite tough now getting in and out. And so adding capacity, it needs really thinking through. So where we've got to is we're in the process of putting that development framework together. And then it will be a process of tying in again the investment strategy to look at what we do over a long period of time and then sequencing it in the right way with the priorities identified. I would say that the priority would be increasing capacity first, but it is linked to other things as well, first team facilities, all sorts of other things that we need to improve and do right as well, because you get one chance at doing this, and if you don't do it the right way, then you kind of would regret it, I think.
A bigger car park might be a tricky one, though, Gaffer, wouldn't it? Try to find your way around it.
Yeah, I needed a small one, yeah.
So corners done, ticked, capacity. Thank you, Andrew. The other really big topic that came up time and time again with all the questions that were being asked for tonight's event was around the budget. So I think it's been widely said, bigger budget this season. Will we see money spent? Will the transfer record, for example, be beaten again? Will we spend money on players?
We have got a bigger budget than last year, and that comes back to the success that we've had in generating revenues, over the last 2 or 3 years. So the budget is bigger, and there will be money to spend, and there will be money to spend on players. I don't know whether the transfer record will be broken because it's about getting the right players, and we may do a mixture of different ones. But certainly we will have a competitive budget, and I think be in a position to consolidate our position within the league as well.
One for you here, Wayne, on the recruitment actually. So a lot's been made over the last few years here, but at quite a few clubs about recruitment teams and how signing a player, for example, works. So how do you fit into the whole process?
Yeah, well, I think when I first spoke to Simon, it's very much ran through the data system, and obviously I can identify players as well. But what we do, we put it through that system, and we get really a real understanding of where that players are, and that gives us a list of players who we identify who potentially could come and join the football club, and then we narrow that down to maybe 3 players, and whoever we feel is the best suited for the team, we go and try and sign them.
Mm-hmm. And then when you've found that target, there's calls, there's chats with you, with Neil, with Jimmy, isn't there?
Yeah, over the summer there was a lot of Zoom calls and presentations we were making to the lads who've come in and also to some lads who had different options as well. So there's been quite a lot of work done throughout the summer to bring players in. I've been pleased with the players we've brought in, and hopefully over the next few weeks we can bring a few more in as well.
Mm-hmm. Very specific question regarding transfers here. So it was before your time at the club, Wayne, so you've got a free pass on this. Why didn't we sign Finn Azaz, either in the summer or in January? And
Who's on? Is Wayne on to us?
We were saving the money to fill in the corners, I think.
yes. And how might we replace him? So that could be one for you. But
Well, I mean, it comes down to he was offered a very lucrative offer with Middlesbrough, and we couldn't match it. We would have loved to have had him, but we couldn't, and that was a shame, but it was simply out of our reach in order to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. That's a simple answer.
And in terms of replacements, the number 10 position, the creative style midfielder is one, Wayne, that, every club at the minute seems to be after. It's a bit like that, isn't it? It's a striker and someone who creates chances are the hardest ones to get. But if you were looking for a Finn Azaz replacement, what sort of, how would you go about looking for it? What sort of things would you be looking for?
Well, I believe we've got one in young Freddie. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's really impressed me over the last few weeks. And of course, we have to, with young players, you have to be careful and not expose them too much. But sometimes they don't give that option with the performances. So I'm excited to work with him. And of course, we've identified a lot of players and in that number 10 role as well as many other positions. And if the right one becomes available, then we'll be right there to bring them in. And we're still looking for players, but I'm excited with the young lads we've got, and I think that can be a real asset for the football club. Mm-hmm.
There's actually some questions coming up a little bit later on the younger players. Right, here's one that has two sides. It's for you again, Wayne. So one realistic, one fantasy. If you could sign one player for Argyle, who would it be? Even now.
What, realistic or?
Well, let's go fantasy, shall we? Let's go fantasy now. If you could sign anyone to improve this team. Forget budget, Simon. This is anyone.
De Bruyne.
Okay. That would fill that as role, wouldn't it? Can we afford him?
I think it might be a record transfer if we did.
And we wouldn't be filling in the corners.
Right, let's move away from transfers now as well. So I hope that's answered some of the questions that were raised by a number of people as well. I mean, probably about 45-50% of the questions that came in were about transfers. So hopefully we've gone some way to answering some of those. Back to the stadium. So Andrew may be best placed on this. Some of the seating, as we will see out the windows at the minute throughout Home Park, have been replaced, looking at the Portcullis Legals Lyndhurst Road stand being an example. But other areas are looking a little bit dated. Are there plans to replace anywhere else around the stadium, seats-wise?
Well, I think, first of all, just to underline that up until about 5 years ago, there had been very little investment at all in the stadium as well. So to a large extent, especially with outside and in, there's still quite a lot to do. And, obviously that costs money to do that. And so we've had to have a plan about gradually improving things over a period of time, notwithstanding if we did a stadium expansion, etc. That being said, obviously, as we know, those seats over there made a massive difference, I think, to the look and feel of the club. And the intention was to do the others over the next couple of years. Two things happen. One is we've got to look at safe standing as well. So in order to perhaps put some safe standing in, then that would impact the seating as well. So we wouldn't want to put new seats in and then have, obviously the safe standing option to put in. And then secondly, going back to what we were talking about before, with the development of the stadium, we want to be able to include that then and not put money into doing something that we may have to change within a very short space of time. I do completely recognise that there are still quite a few things that we need to do, but we've also got to prioritise as well in different areas, both inside the stadium. We've done the pitch, for example, which is over £1 million that's cost us this year. Everyone will know that we've done the big screen. We've got the fan part that's been done. So I think we can say there's a lot being done over 2 or 3 years, and it's one of those things that's again on the list, but we'll just have to be a little bit more patient.
Okay, Simon, I think it was just under a year ago that a new 5-year mission was put out. So almost 12 months on, how are you feeling about the progress of it?
Feeling pretty good. The first stage was to survive in the championship, which we did by the skin of our teeth. I like to think that we'll survive before the last game of the season.
So does everybody here.
So does everybody, I'm sure. That 5-year mission was about competing in the top half of the championship. To compete in the top half of the championship with a chance of getting in the playoffs and then a chance of getting in the Premier League is going to require more investment. We can't do it, I don't think, on a sustained basis with the kind of resources that the club has at the moment. There's a long list of things that we want to invest in, some of which we've discussed today, some of which Andrew mentioned just now. So I'm pretty happy about the direction it's going, but we will still need new investment. And again, just to emphasize, it's a mission. And to achieve a mission, you have to take one step at a time. Occasionally you go off course, you get lost in the car park, you find your way back. There will be setbacks, but I think, given that we're just 1 year in, we're doing remarkably well. We've got new investors at least interested. We've got the beginnings of a development plan, as Andrew mentioned. So as soon as we have that new investment, we'll be able to prioritise the infrastructure that's needed for a competitive championship team, which is still a long way from, I'm sure Wayne, we're not far from, I think it was, when did Derek Adams come here? 12 years ago? That he was interviewed in Exeter because they didn't want him to see anything at the stadium. 2 years ago, this club didn't have a gym. So we've, I think, very carefully prioritised what we can do with limited resources, whilst at the same time generating new income to be invested in the football squad. So it's been very careful, and I think it will continue to be careful, and that's the way that I would want it. But I'm actually very pleased with the way things are going. And a mission is not a plan. So we set the mission, and we've been planning how we're going to achieve it. And the plan is, I think, getting clearer and more attainable as the months go by.
A follow-up to that, was it or is it a realistic aim to be in the Premier League in 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can take inspiration from the Lutons, the Brentfords of this world, the clubs that on a limited budget, but by being smart about how they spend that money, have succeeded in the Championship. They have not succeeded in staying in the Premier League, of course, but they benefit mightily from that year, and I'm sure that the Luton fans in particular seem to love their year in the Prem. I think it's realistic that we can compete in the top half of the Championship. I don't think it's realistic that we should think that we're going to be competing for the automatic promotions places. Last year we were looking at budgets between the kind of bottom budget teams like us and the top budget teams of budgets that were 8 times what we were spending. And I don't think we're going to get there. But I think that by generating more revenues, by getting new investors who can help put a little bit more money in the playing squad, and by generating more revenues from our own operations, that we can be a mid-table budget, and that means that if we're smart with our money, we've got a very good chance of getting in the playoffs. And if you can get in the playoffs, it's a crapshoot. You've got a 25% chance of making the Premier League. What we're not going to do is get investors who are going to say, right, we're happy losing 25 million a year over the next 3 years to see if we can get to the Premier League. That is not the kind of investor that we're looking for. Our first mission was to be a sustainable championship club. We're now continuing to want to be a sustainable championship club, but as we've said, with Premier League aspirations, but that does not mean hemorrhaging money until the new investor gets bored and wants to go away.
Wayne, following on a little bit from that, Simon mentioned, the difference even in our league of what some clubs are able to spend and what we are. But, you've played at the very top. You played at one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in the world, in Manchester United. So what, in your opinion, what lessons do you think a club like Argyle can take from a big top club? Obviously, without spending millions and billions of pounds of money. But what were they doing right on top of spending money that Argyle might also be able to do?
Yeah, I think it's a process, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I think everything which Andrew's saying about the stadium and gradually trying to improve things, improve the facilities, improve the playing squad, and gradually just trying to keep improving. And once you get there, can you sustain it? So I think for what Simon was saying just then was obviously trying to get into a mid-table top half position and then hopefully sneaking into the top six. But I think from my point of view as a coach and my coaches I have alongside me, it's our job to try and develop the players as well and try and make the players better and try and get a playing philosophy which the fans enjoy coming to watch and then trying to be successful. So that's our job. That's what I've been brought in to do. But yeah, I think it takes time. It's gradual, and I think what you can't do. I experienced it at Derby County, and I know. I think it was 11 years ago. Was it?
Yeah.
11 years ago.
Yeah.
It happened here as well, going into administration, and it's not nice, and it's difficult. It's very tough for the staff, for the fans, for everyone connected to a football club when that happens. So it's very important we don't allow ourselves to get back in that position.
Yeah. Moving on slightly.
Actually, can I just?
Sorry.
I think there's a lesson for Manchester United in the post-Rooney Ferguson era that they've done almost the opposite of what we've done. They spend a lot of money on players without thinking about how those players fit into the team, how they fit into the playing philosophy. I'm saying this as an ignorant football observer, but I think they've almost done the opposite of what we're trying to do. They haven't spent a lot of money very smartly. And, you see that in the player turnover, big names that come in, don't fit in, have to leave again, a lot of money's lost. And that is not what we're going to do.
Changing the subject pretty much entirely. Question for you, Simon. What happens to being a transparent club? Feels like supporters aren't told anything anymore. It's a question that came in. This
is like being in a hall of mirrors where you look. Here we are at a fans forum where you can ask any question and we'll answer it. And one of the questions is, why aren't you answering more questions? So I'm not quite sure what to say. I think we're one of the most transparent clubs in the EFL. We get our full finances out as quickly as we can. We've been amongst the first 2 or 3 clubs to get financial picture out. We give presentations about our finances. We tell you everything that we can as soon as we can. That doesn't mean that we tell you everything. People ask me, who are we going to be signing in the next 3 weeks? And I don't know. I don't think Wayne knows. I don't think Andrew knows. We can't go out telling you everything that we're thinking about because most of the things that we think about never come to fruition. So we will tell you everything we can when we know what's going on, when we know what results are going to be. We'll explain what we've done. We'll explain where we've gone wrong. We'll explain what's gone right. If things have gone wrong, we'll tell you why. And to me, that's what being transparent is. I'm not quite sure what else people want. But if anybody's got any ideas, send them in. I find that
directly to you.
Directly. Well, people know my email address. It's chairman@pafc.co.uk, and I think I've only failed to answer one email that I've had in the last 5 years, and that was by a guy that I considered a appalling bigot.
Okay, on the theme of transparency then, Andrew, is there an update on Brickfields?
Yes, Brickfields, it's been a long time this, everyone will know that we got planning permission last year, which was great. It's really been great working with the City Council, working with all the other entities, all the other stakeholders. Very complex project, but going through the planning stages has taken the time. But now we're in a position literally within 2 or 3 weeks where we'll be able to start doing the enabling works and start the construction as well, which is really exciting. The community hub aspect, because of course Argyle Community Trust will be there to run the facility there, that will be completed towards the end of the year as well. So there will be quite a lot that will be released in the next few weeks, both to the community and more widely to show everyone the progress is made. But it'll be a relatively quick process. So certainly by September, October next year, probably we'll be in a position where we'll be able to start playing football, and we'll have a home for our academy, which is great news because everybody knows that they've had to travel here, there and everywhere, the youngsters, to be able to play. Going back to what Wayne was saying, it can only help our youngsters to develop if we've got a single home not too far away for them to grow and become great footballers. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, of course, the other one at Brickfields is the women's team as well. We'll have a home. So what? That's all right. The other home it will be for is for the women's team as well. So a question here about them coming under the umbrella of the club, under the main club this year. Can you tell us about any plans as to what's coming up over the next few years?
Another exciting development. Obviously, the work that the Community Trust did in bringing the women's team along in the last few years has been fantastic. But it was the next step for us is to bring it under the, sort of the control of the club. We're really excited that the first 3 home games are going to be played at Home Park. I know a number of you have been asking over many years, what's the club doing with the women's team? So now's the opportunity to really support the women's team because they'll need it. It'll be fantastic to start afresh, as it were. We've already announced our first signing, like a permanent signing, which is great news. So again, we'll be running it the same way we run the men's club, in a sustainable way. But the more we can get people involved, the more you guys come, the easier that will be. So I'd really encourage everyone, as I say, to come and support the women's team when they kick off in a not too distant future.
Another topic which got a lot of love, I suppose. Lots of questions came in on this, is around the waiting list for season tickets. So is it worthwhile? And this specific question says, when will I get the opportunity to buy one? And that's not me.
Yeah. I think that is an individual question.
That is an individual question, actually. So when can I get mine?
It's definitely worthwhile. I know it can be a bit frustrating for people, but given the fact that we've got 3,000 people on the waiting list and we had 500 that were new season ticket holders who had been on the waiting list this year, then I think that goes to show that we can get new people in. There are people, for one reason or another, that don't want to come, can't come, etc. So it's definitely worked for us and for the club. What we do need to make sure, though, of course, and we're pretty much at a ceiling in terms of season tickets, it's still an opportunity for people to come on a one-off occasion as well. So obviously I know the question about attendances, etc., but it's important that we don't go any higher on the season tickets because we do want new people to be able to come. We do have people that we offer concessions to as well, so we have to get that balance right, I think, between them. But yes, been successful for us as well.
The other thing that's been successful has been our ticket exchange program. So just encourage all season ticket holders, if you're not going to come to a game, please sell your ticket back to the club and we'll be able to give it to somebody who does want to come to the game. It's been very successful, but needs your help again. Thanks.
This one, I think, is born out of social media. Why does it take so long to release the new kits?
Is that for me?
If you want to take it, yeah.
Well, it's in our gift, really, to launch the kits, and we try and do it in the right time, particularly over the summer, obviously, when there's no football. I think kit launch is one of the exciting things, right? About when's the new kit coming, maybe a little leak that I've heard it looks like this. And what we try and do is, as we have done, we've got a lot of great green shirts on today. And then we have the away kit, which obviously then gets that kind of attention for a few weeks as well. So we try and stagger it to give us the opportunity to profile it, but also, as many people are doing here, to show off the kit before the beginning of the season. I don't think it does take a long time, and obviously it takes a long time in terms of developing the kit and ordering the kit and everything else, because it comes from many miles away. But actually, the launch we try and do in the best, most pragmatic way.
Yeah, it is annoying when it leaks, though, Simon, at Glastonbury, isn't it?
Very annoying. I'd fire whoever was responsible for that.
Question on the kit.
Go on.
Why doesn't the away kit have red trim?
Why doesn't the away kit have red trim? I think there's a big reason why it doesn't have red.
I think each year we try and develop a different kit. I mean, if you asked me last year when we had the gold, that was quite a departure, if you like. So I think new kits, different sometimes different colours. I think is fine. So. Obviously, everyone's got a different view. I could ask a lot of people in here, and you all have do you like that green or do you not like this green? Kits are always going to be quite an emotional thing, I think. But we try and just vary it up. And to your point, you want a trim. Some others have really liked the classy white, and we've had a lot of really good comments about the white.
Yeah, it's the black bit. But
Well, I think we use black a lot, don't we, in kits as well, green and black. So, I think we've got to be able to match it up a bit.
I think one colour that definitely won't be used is red, though. Just a quick one, Andrew, here on what clubs can do to affect fixtures. So, yet again, we are away on Boxing Day, 8th season in a row. It's a fairly short trip to Middlesbrough over Easter. So can the club have any influence over fixtures and when they might be?
It's a really complicated process, so you've got to imagine that all the clubs in the league have to take account of their different circumstances. For us, obviously, in our location, pretty difficult, because you want to be able to give us a closer fixture if it's not at home to an away fixture. You've got to make sure that things like you don't have any rivalries between fans, etc., which might cause an issue on a Boxing Day. And the panel have to look at every consideration. We don't really have a say on when that's done. It is a bit of luck of the draw, really, at the end of the day. But it goes into the whole machine, as it were, to come out with that. Ideally, we would want a fixture on Boxing Day at home, but well, hopefully next year it will be the same. We've been saying that for a while.
Surely, exactly.
Never had one in my time here. Yeah.
Well, it's a long time. Sticking with travelling, and there's a fair old long way to go. You've experienced it a little bit, Wayne, so far. Cheltenham's the furthest. It'll get further than that. Yeah. So, I don't know whether this is something you can answer or not, but like flying, is that an option? What are your thoughts on kind of how players can recover from long journeys, pre-game, post-game, all of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, of course, it's really important, and there will be games which we fly to, there'll be games which we get the train to or we get the bus to, and we just have to make sure we do it right, because obviously just as important as getting to the game is getting back, because obviously the players' recovery and the food, what food they have on the team bus as well on the way home, and can they stretch the legs, can they maybe try and get some sleep, because there's a lot of games where we will be getting back here early hours in the morning. So, we have to deal with it. That's something we have to deal with. And sometimes when you fly, getting to the airport, and it takes a lot of time to go through the airport, and so sometimes it's not worth it. You're better actually resting and getting a sleep on the bus as well. So, but yeah, it's something which, of course, the club is aware of. become aware of that, and yeah, we're doing everything the best we can to make sure the players have the best travel and the best food, best recovery.
Yeah, I think.
But to a large extent, it's not in our control.
No.
I just think I don't travel with the team very often, but a couple of times when I have, for example, we flew to Ipswich last season and we left Home Park at noon and got to our hotel at 10 to 7, and that was flying. The first game of last season against Watford, we had a plan to get the train to. Hello, Mikey. I didn't know you were coming. We had a plan to take the train to Watford, get on the team bus. To Reading, get on the team bus to Watford, and they'd given away all our seats. So we literally had. I particularly remember all 6 foot whatever he is of Connor Hazard lying, watching a movie on his laptop in the middle of the aisle. We had Bali Mumba, that we just broken the club transfer record for, eating his lunch out of a plastic box, sitting down outside the toilet on the train. So.
All good plans and all that.
I'm not getting political, but the infrastructure for travel in this country is terrible. And as Wayne says, we've got to make sure that we've got the sports science, the fitness people, the food people, and so on, making sure that we're dealing with a really very, very dodgy transport infrastructure. But it's a real problem.
I think sometimes you can overthink things as well, and I think it's part of your job, so you have to do it. And if you start thinking, oh, we've got 6 hours here and 7 hours here, then it will affect your mind. So I think, that's what we have to do, get on with it, and, let's move on.
6-7 hours is short.
Slightly switching that as well. I know teams hate coming down here because of the travel, and you kind of got to get into their heads a little bit, haven't you, with that? The number of times I hear, oh, we've got to go down to Plymouth, and you think we've got to travel 5 hours, and you think, well, we're doing that most weeks. But you actually can turn it around into your favour, I think, because people don't look forward to coming, do they?
There was that, sorry, this is a bit of a yarn. There was that great story a couple of years ago when we played Peterborough in the Papa John's I think it was the Papa John's on a Wednesday.
Carabao and then the league, they stayed here.
And they asked us, we'll stay over if we can play on a Wednesday rather than go home after playing on a Tuesday. So we said, sure, we'll change it to Wednesday and you can stay for 3 days. And they had to train on a rock-hard pitch at Salt Ash. They were staying in the Copthorne where there was no air conditioning and it was like 26 degrees centigrade and humid.
That's what I feel like.
They beat
there
us.
is water down there.
They beat us 2-0 at Home Park on a Wednesday, and we crushed them on the Saturday. So it really did work in our favour that time.
Yeah, more clubs can stay down if they want, and we'll put them in the Copthorne, exactly. Right, moving on a little bit. So probably one for Andrew, I think, and then it will stray into Wayne here, actually. How can we address the issue of providing quality and competitive game time for players not regularly in the starting lineup or in the first team that will then prepare them effectively for playing in the Championship when they're needed on, basically? And this goes on to say we're not relying on the loan market, for example. What else can be done?
Well, first of all, can I just answer the loan market? I think that can work very strongly in our favour. We only need to see Adam Randall, who went to Torquay, had a great season there, and I think that was the making of him to come back here and be able to. Obviously, it wasn't Championship at the time, but that was the transition that he needed. So I don't think we should be dismissive of sending players out on loan at all. And in fact, some of the youngsters, arguably, if they're playing players of their own age, if you get like the academy competitions, that doesn't stand them in good stead necessarily. So we have seen, haven't we, some of the Premier League teams come here and play against us with their youngsters, and generally we've beaten them. So I think we should recognise that is an important part for us. I think Wayne will be able to answer the question about how do you sort of get them to be Championship ready, but I know that there's more opportunity now, isn't there? Because we've got more spaces on the bench. You've got a coach that wants to play youngsters. We've got other competitions where you can use the ability to do that. So I would say that there's ways you can do it.
Yeah. On that then, Wayne, so you obviously were a player that came through at 16 and just played. not everybody will. That players will develop at different times, what have you. So if we're taking a young player, how do you see it? What is the best way for a young player to develop and just say, then when called upon, be ready to step out there and play in the Championship?
Well, I think when I come into the football club, we sit down with all the players, not just the young players, but the more senior players as well, and we have an individual development plan for every player and to try and improve them as players. And I firmly believe that even the players who are in the 30s, you can still improve them. But just touching on what Andrew was saying, I think every player is different, every individual is different. So some players might need to go out on loan, some players might be better to stay with the club. And I think you've seen that with Phil Foden for 2 or 3 years at Manchester City. Pep Guardiola wouldn't let him go out on loan, and he kept him around the team, and he developed obviously into the player he is today. So I think every player, some players are ready to go and play men's football. Some players take a little bit longer as well. So for the young players who I've worked with, and certainly since I've come into this football club, I think there's quite a bit of talent who I've got in the first team who've come through the academy, which is exciting. And as I said earlier, it's my job now to develop them. And I will, if they're ready to play, I will put them on the pitch. I will give them an opportunity to go and shine and go and try and win us football games or help the team move forward. So I've got a real desire to develop young players, and I know obviously growing up as a fan of Everton Football Club, what it does to the fans when you see one of your own players come through is such a great feeling. And so my job now is hopefully to give some of the local lads an opportunity and give the fans something to cheer about, because I think there's no better feeling when you see one of your own come on the pitch.
Yep.
If I could just add.
I think everybody agrees with that.
Yep, we all love that. He's not here, but I've heard Neil Jusnip, our Director of Football, talk a little bit about this recently. Neil's a believer that under 21 is not grown up enough, if you like, for the kind of experience that you want players to get. And Neil's a great student of other sports, and he's always talked about the All Blacks, who've had this philosophy for many years of the team that starts, the team that finishes, and they're trying to overcome the historic cultural thing, really, that says, if you're either a starter or you're a bench player. And I think one of the things that we've been very good at Argyle, particularly under Stephen Schumacher, was using our squad. And I'm getting dangerously close to talking about football here, so tell me to shut up. But rugby, for many years, has had 8 substitutes. You can change half your team. And football, for a couple of years, has had 5 substitutes. If you can change half your outfield and you're not using too close to football. My basic point is that football's now a squad game. And if you're going to be good enough to be on the squad, you're almost certain to get minutes, I think, aren't you?
Well, yeah, okay. Right, change the subject again. Premiership and EFL have not yet agreed the solidarity payments for the upcoming season. So, Andrew, this one's for you. What impact has that had on the club's budget for the season? And follow-up, the club anticipated a turnover of £25 million last season. What is the projected turnover for this season?
Okay, so I think this the questioner is slightly confused here. So the solidarity payments we get from the Premier League every year, we are getting those solidarity payments, and we do get them. And we also get a payment from the EFL each year. Those monies have gone up this year from last year. I think the questioner is probably thinking about the new deal that was being talked about, which is a bigger piece where, obviously, particularly during COVID and post-COVID, there were discussions between the EFL and the Premier League to look at more money going down the pyramid from the potential TV deals that the Premier League were getting. Now, those discussions have come to a standstill, and so they haven't moved forward over 3 or 4 years, which is disappointing. But where we're at now, there is a government white paper, government bill, actually, that went in through the King's Speech, which means that there could well be some sort of governance legislation to ensure that there is money that will come down through the pyramid It's complicated. There are things like the parachute payments that distort the competitiveness of the leagues. So it does need to be worked through. And so we're a bit away, I think, from being able to have that new deal, as it were. But just to underline the point I made is that the solidarity payment itself has been paid by the Premier League. In terms of our turnover, so I remember 4 or 5 years ago, our turnover was around about 7-8 million, I think it was, just 5 years ago. And this year we're projecting it to be 30 million. So, you know, that's a massive increase. Some of that is obviously attributable to the broadcasting deals, but a lot of it has been due to the fact that I think we've done quite a good job in generating revenue from all possible opportunities. And so, and that, of course, goes back to all the things we're talking about, the playing squad, etc. So we certainly got a stronger revenue stream than we've ever had.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We've got we've got a load of questions still here to get to. I'm conscious that we need to get some from you. So we'll do a couple of quick fire ones, potentially. Is there any scope to start streaming pre-season matches going forward? It seems a large majority of Championship clubs do this. All in the Premier League do. So yeah, are there any plans for that?
We have to do each one and look at it on its merits. And very often, particularly if we're playing away, then it's out of our control really. And some clubs are a bit frightened of streaming the games because they feel that it would mean that the capacity or the attendance would be impacted. So that's been one of the main issues that we've had about doing that. Wherever it's possible and it makes sense to do it, we'll do it. It's just, I think, latterly when we've had things like the pitch to do in the summer and other things from last year, it's meant we've not had the ability to do it. But undoubtedly, we'll be able to look at it.
One here on Harper's, which is not the training ground, the five-a-side centre. DJM users have been kicked off their training slots. Adult users and referees have noticed how run down the playing facilities have become as well. Are there plans to invest any more and allow local youth teams back in the future?
It's for me again, is it?
If you want to take it.
So I think, first of all, to underline that DGM have the ability to be able to play there. And in fact, we have more community usage than we've ever had there because the community trust has taken up a lot of the slots that were not being used as well. So there's more schools, there's more youngsters that are playing there than there ever has been before. In terms of investment, again, it comes back to all these other things that we're talking about. What do we do and how do we do it first? I think we have put investment in there, particularly around the signage, the look and feel from the outside of it. And then we've also invested in a kitchen because you can get any food, well, very limited food options there. So we've been able to do that. That's been done over the summer period. The next piece is to look at things like the floodlighting up there and the pitches. And that's what we'll do. But it'll be part of a plan and it'll be considered amongst all the other things that we need to consider, including the corners.
It's one of those examples, like similar to the seats, that our long-term plan for Harper's is for it to be part of a first-team training centre. So investing a large amount now is going to be wasted if we manage to start that project sooner rather than later, which we'd obviously like to do. But as Andrew says, is all part of the planning process.
The final question we'll take from the list that has come in before we hand to a couple from the floor is for you, Simon. Every year since you have been, or taken over, since you've been the majority shareholder, we've seen continual improvement and progress as a club. Aside from finishing higher in the league this season, what are the other key improvements that you are looking to see across the next couple of seasons?
It's very flattering. We actually got relegated in my first season as chairman. People have short memories. So, when I think about the kind of improvements we've made, they've been twofold. They've been partly in the infrastructure. We took a kind of very conscious decision 5 or 6 years ago that we were going to invest in making the fan experience here better, in a bid to get attendances up, in a bid to get revenues up, in a bid to get more money available for the first team squad. Attendances have risen. Attendances are more consistent. So that investment in the infrastructure continues. I mean, as we speak, I think literally as we speak, we're installing digital signboards, which will be revenue generating. Over the last few years, we've put in the big screen, we've redone the seats, we've bought back Higher Home Park, and we now have a very successful, what do you call that, FanFest area pre-game, where I think we get over 2,000 people now turning up before games, which is fantastic. So I think more of that. We've obviously got the Brickfields project, which is the biggest in terms of money and possibly the biggest in terms of impact at the club over the next 10 years. You know, one of the attractions of Wayne, and frankly of every manager that we've had in the last 5 years, has been their willingness to play new players, to play young players. And I think, you know, they can do that knowing that they can take risks at Argyle. We've always encouraged risk-taking. So the academy is not just a fantastic thing for our younger players, but it's a key part of the financial strategy over the next decade. So I'd really like to see that come to fruition. It's on track. That's going to be in the next 1 to 2 years. I'd like to see more use of the outside area. I don't think that that's going to be in the next 1 or 2 years, but it, again, depends on new investment. I'd also, we have ambitions over the next 1 to 2 years to start the process of developing a fan base beyond just Plymouth, Devon and Cornwall. We've got the core of a fan base in the United States. We have a small but very active group. Hi, Caroline. Hi, Mikey. Hi, how are you? And we are really going to try to push to get a fan base to take that fan base globally. You'll see more about that if you're interested over the next few months, certainly over the next 12 months. So those are the kind of things I'd like to see. Just continuous improvement in the fan experience and investment in revenue generating opportunities that are going to give us more money for the first team squad and give us a better chance of moving gradually up in the championship.
Great. Okay, we've got time to have a couple of questions from the room. Rob McNichol is running around with a roving mic. We'll probably go to the back over on our left-hand side. We stood up as well, even better. Look at that.
This is a question for Wayne. I'm interested to know how you actually applied for the job. I assume you didn't have to send in a CV, but what did you actually have to go through in the interview process as well, once that all started?
Well, I did have to send the CV in.
I'd actually quite like to see that CV.
Yeah, so, no.
I'm an American. I don't know anything about these English players.
No, yeah, I applied to interview for the job, and the first, obviously, people I spoke to was Simon and Andrew, and then, as far as I'm aware, there was quite a lot of managers who had applied for the job, and there was a big process, and then the board and Simon narrowed it down to 4 managers, I believe, and we got given a task to do all the same task, and thankfully I must have done okay, so here I am.
I'm interested to know. Most people get really nervous before job interviews. So, were you?
I was intrigued. I think because when you go into a job interview, if you get knocked back, it's always a disappointment, and so you want to obviously be the best you can be, and show your enthusiasm and your intelligence and obviously your desire to want to come and manage the football club, and so I had no worries from that point of view. And then I think for me, just a general, after I finished the interview, I got a really good feel for it, and it felt natural. So I think it was I was very comfortable in the interview. So and then quite quickly, actually, Andrew called me on my way home, actually, and I was off the job.
Huge relief. Great. Any more questions from anybody? There's one at the front here as well. Second question of the night for the man who wants red in our kit.
Welcome to Argyle, Wayne.
Thank you.
A question for you. I think everybody would agree that our return from corners has been pretty poor. Do you think we need a set-piece coach, or are you confident that you can improve that? And also, tactics, when we've the opposition have got a corner, everybody comes back. Now, Mumba, who's 5'0", and Hardy, who's not very good in the air, why not leave one of them up the pitch so at least we got an outlet?
Tactical
I love you.
chat.
Honestly, I have this argument all the time with my coaches. So when I was at Derby County, I actually left 4 players up the pitch because we were a very small, young team, very small team, and I left 4 players up. And what that does, it gives the opposition a problem. They either leave 4 back and the goalkeeper, or they leave 5 back and have 1 as cover, plus the goalkeeper, which that means the 6, then 1 player taking the corner, that's 7, and then they only have 4 in the penalty area. So these are all things which I have with the coaches, and they think I'm crazy sometimes. But yeah, set pieces are really important, and I'm sure you'll see with the players who have brought in as well. They're all a good height, they're all very athletic, and set pieces in this league is very important. And I'm aware of the record last season was not great. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of work, and we'll continue to do a lot of work to make sure we improve that.
You didn't concede a goal when leaving 4 up the field?
No.
Ah, good.
No,
There
we
you
nearly
go.
scored, and go flipping that in corners 4. There was a lot of different things which we tried, and it was actually against Middlesbrough when Neil Warnock was manager. We left every player out the penalty area and literally just charged in, and it was very confusing for his players at Middlesbrough to deal with, and we scored and won the game. So yeah, you might see a few crazy ideas, but I think it's I think it's if you're unpredictable on attacking corners, then the opposition are going to struggle to know what you're doing.
Couple thumbs up. Couple more questions. We'll take 2 more. Have you still got the mic, Rob? Yeah. Again, they're all coming from this side. Anyone over this side fancy asking anyone a question? No, by the looks of things. Okay, one in the front here.
Oh, thank you. Good evening. Andrew, if I can address this one to you, please. I'm normally 100% between everything that Argyle come out with. I'm supportive of it. But this decision that has been made recently, I can't get my head around it. So I'm asking you, Simon, what was the thinking behind stopping the disabled people's personal assistance having to pay to go on coaches, which is done this season? In previous seasons, they've always gone free, which is helping the disabled people to attend their away games. For some reason, this coming season, we're charging the PAs. I can't get my head around why we're hammering the disadvantaged people of Plymouth Argyle Football Club, the supporters who need it most, and they need the PAs to go with them, and we're suddenly making them pay.
Thank you for the question. So I was made aware of this yesterday, and what I can say is that we're reviewing it, and hopefully there'll be some good news that will come your way.
I'd love to see it resolved.
Thank you very much for the question. We'll take 1 more. If there's any from here, we're taking you. Yes, okay, down at the front. Thank you very much. Make it a good one.
Why us and why Rooney? I know obviously you said that you felt comfortable here in your interview and it's intrigued you, and obviously bar the fact that you're Wayne Rooney, you've not had the best managing career. So what is it about us? Because everywhere we've always just been little old Argyle. Unless you're involved in the club, you're down there, you don't matter, you're in the arse end of nowhere. So why us, but then also why Rooney? I think we were very lucky with maybe Lowe obviously repeated the same lines after his move, so maybe his was a bit of a waffle. But Shuey had a really good relationship with us. He was offered better money, it is what it is. We were very lucky with those 2. Foster wasn't really, I know it's been addressed previously, but Foster wasn't exactly how he seemed when he was first interviewed and first looked at. and he had no rapport with fans. What makes Rooney different other than the fact that you are Rooney? You know?
Yeah, good question. So I think for me, the how I value myself and everything I've done in my career is very calculated. And I think when the opportunity came up for me to manage Argyle, then of course you have to think about it. Of course I have to speak with my family as well. And it's something I really wanted. I've got a passion for football. I've got a love for football. And where you say it's only little Argyle, it doesn't have to be that. It can grow, it can be bigger, it can get better. And I think part of me coming here, also for me as a coach, of course I can improve, I can get better. I think as a player, as a coach, you're always trying to improve and try and be bigger and better than what you have been previously. And the one thing I can promise is my work effort and my desire, my enthusiasm to move this club forward is stronger than anything I've ever done. So I had a knockback in my previous job and it hurt, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. So I felt this was the right club, the right time, the right people, the right environment, and it's an opportunity for me to prove myself, but also opportunity for me to try and help this club move forward.
We've got a follow-up. I'll relay it, so just say it.
For your club's Turf career.
Yeah, unfortunately,
You might
I've
just explain
retired.
Turf and Turf, reveal what you have.
Yeah, obviously, I haven't got time to be playing on that at the minute. So, yeah, unfortunately, I've retired.
Yeah, anyone who doesn't know what that is, Pie Face is involved. But full focus on Argyle. Right, one final question, and it's come in from someone watching at home. So I told you we'd get one from you guys watching at home, and we'll squeeze it in right at the end. And it actually goes back to the big topic which we spoke about at the very start, which was transfers and budgets and stuff. They want a bit of clarification. So either Simon or Andrew, or maybe Wayne can come in on this. So having a bigger budget, people are assuming we're going to spend more money and spend money on players, but as yet we haven't this season. We've only really got free transfers or loans. So why isn't that happening? Why aren't we spending money on a player? Why are we only getting them on loan?
Well, it's very simple. We haven't identified the right player at the right price that needs a transfer fee. Let's be clear, the football budget is a single number. And if the recruitment team, with input from Wayne, the finance people, decide to allocate 20% of that to transfer fees and 80% to wages, that's up to them. It's an overall cost. It's transfer fees plus wages. And if we, plus of course, agents fees, all sorts of other things. But it's really up to the football people, including our recruitment team, how they allocate that between transfers and wages. And loan players are not free. We have to pay their wages. So we've actually this year, I think, managed to attract on loan at least a couple of players who would have been way outside our transfer budget, way outside our means for transfers. So we'll only get them for a year, but then we can see. But it's a single figure. There's a little bit of money separately available for transfer, but the real way you should think about it is total cost of having a player, transfer fees plus wages. Does that answer the question?
Just to add a little bit there, is I think actually the market relatively so far has been quite slow, if you look at it, and that's because there's the trickle down from the Euros, etc., and I don't think we've seen much transfer business as such with which, if you would like to call that, thus far in the general market. I think this next month, as seems to happen every time, it will be very busy. And obviously, going back to Simon's point, you know, these things, in terms of a discussion about the right player, they can take sometimes weeks, months, a long time. And, you know, clubs that are selling and clubs that are buying, you can be a long way apart for a long time, because people want to either get the maximum for their player, or, You know, as a club, if you're buying, you want to make sure that you're buying at the right price. And it's very rarely that you will go in and meet straight away. There's always a discussion, and sometimes that will take a little bit of time.
Great. People love transfers, don't they? Right, okay, that's it. That is us for tonight here. Thanks a lot for tuning in and for coming and for contributing with questions as well. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you've been able to answer as many of those questions as we can. You can, as well, go back and watch this again. So if you've missed the start, if you're watching from home, if you didn't quite understand something, want to go back and listen to, you can see it on our YouTube page and on a dedicated page on our website as well. But, yeah, thanks a lot for coming along. As mentioned, Wayne will be in the little segregated area over there for half an hour for some photos and autographs. If you want to go and say hi to our new gaffer,
We'll be
you
staying
can
around as
do.
well.
Simon and Andrew will too. I expect the
Yeah,
queue
there's a smaller queue.
might be smaller, yeah. But thank you once again, and give it up for our amazing panel. Enjoy the rest of the night.